Hello all, my name is Stacey Knight, Head of Business Development at the AISTS. I would like to welcome our class of 2020 and all our external guests zooming in. I will make no further mention of our world's #1 Sports Masters program, as all information together with our founding partners can be found on the AISTS.org page. My background, for those who don't know me, has been working with Olympics, FIFA, and UEFA global sponsors for the last 21 years. Joining AISTS has opened my world of sport and expanded my network through the various mandated team projects that we research annually on behalf of our influential and very interesting organizations. Some of the team projects focus on anti-doping, climate change, to traditional sport versus global growth in esports, etc. Moreover, it has helped develop close relationships with the international federations, and I know we have a few of you online today, so thank you for joining, as well as pioneering organizations such as CSM Live, with whom we have the privilege of speaking with today. Today's session will be 1 hour with 40 minutes presentation, and then at the end, prior to beginning the Q&A, we will have a poll that's going to go up. So it would be great if you can participate in the poll. And for those of our external guests who've not had the chance to submit your questions, please put them in the Q&A box, and we'll have our honorary guests answer them. So with no further ado, let's welcome Stacey Knight, Commercial Director at CSM Live, who will discuss with us the futuristic branding of major sports events in a post-COVID-19 world. And I think all of us are aware of what this has done and how it's impacted the world of sport today. And we've seen it now with all the live broadcasts and events that are being streamed. So welcome, Stacey, and thank you for being with us. It's a great pleasure to have you. And please know that you are here based on the request of our class of 2020.
Elaine, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone at AISTS as well. It's a privilege to be able to speak to you all. My name, as Elaine mentioned, is Stacey Knight, and I am the Commercial Director at CSM Live. I am also currently proud to be a non-executive director of the Rugby League World Cup 2021. I'm sure a lot of you will have seen my biography, but if not, I have a background in digital, in traditional print, in branding, and in engaging on an experiential and pop-up level with brands across the globe. Without further ado, what I'd like to talk to you about is the effect of futuristic branding on major sporting events, and also in relation to COVID-19, what we expect is the immediate changes to all that. So, without further ado, let me begin. From an optimistic start to 2020 and an enviable global calendar of sporting events, we've seen the first few months deliver a roller coaster of unprecedented and, quite frankly, unpredictable change. And while these can certainly be described as challenging times, for me, one adage still holds true: that sport is an essential part of our society and has been greatly missed. While I can't predict the future, unfortunately, and I really wish I could, I can attempt to unwrap the challenges and sift through the opportunities to ensure that as sport returns, it does so in a stronger position. During this presentation, I will delve into what the future holds for sporting branding, fan engagement, and of course, commercials. A little note though, now what I'll try to do is steer away from opportunities that I'm sure you will have seen in the marketplace to date. So for example, audio in venue solutions. And instead, I'll attempt to look at additional opportunities there are to engage with fans, sponsors, broadcasters alike, and how really everything has changed. For any sport, or indeed any organisation related to sport, short-term planning is very much a priority at present and has been centred around the return to sport, or as I call it, phase 1, restricted behind closed doors. With thoughts clearly around the return to sport, the practical measures have taken priority. So measures of biosecurity, athletes' welfare, and stadium and venue dressing for broadcast. And underpinning all of these are the increasingly commercial implications, the effect on fans, the physical aspects, which I've mentioned, and all absolutely essential in consideration. But they also provide opportunities as well. During this period, an eye should be turned to what the future holds and how technology, innovation, and creative thinking can help enable competitive advantage and build a robust strategy for growth, be that new tribes of fans, grassroots, or even data. To start, I'm going to touch on biosecurity, which it does sound a little bit like a sci-fi movie, but is related in fact to health, safety and welfare of operating sport during phase 1 and beyond. New measures and procedures that must be introduced for the benefit of all, which in itself can feel daunting because it covers the likes of how will security be carried out effectively when entering venues, what about cleaning rotas, are hygiene officers needed, hand sanitizer station and queuing, PPE, reduced spectators, so how will seating work, for example, and what about shared working spaces, lifts and bathroom facilities? Now, why do I touch on biosecurity? Well, we can talk about futuristic branding opportunities, but if we don't get the immediate concerns right now, those won't come into play at all. Our approach at CSM Live has been to split this into strategic concerns and the tactical solutions that can deliver these. Be it virtual queuing systems controlled by your mobile phone, dynamic digital displays that can double up as safety announcements and wayfinding solutions, even additional toilets, environmental graphics and messaging, click and collect concessions and seat kills. This all needs to be thought through, not just about phase 1 behind closed doors, but it is also imperative for when spectators return. Fans will expect venues to provide these hygiene factors. Not just us making it up, you can see here the statistics. Above all else, cleanliness is a top concern for spectators. And as such, any measures planned and implemented now should be done so with a view that they will be needed for the long term, or at least the very immediate future. It's tempting to procure cheap and cheerful, but how will this look in 12 to 16 months' time? Any additional signage, branding, and messaging should be on brand, in your colours, font and style. After all, you protect your brand fiercely and with good reason. Therefore, the messaging must convey trust in operational and capital change when the venue operates. It should be reassuring, it should be welcoming, and with all the best will in the world, hazard tape does not do this job. Don't know about you, but hazard tape for me implies risk, not reassurance. All messaging should be seamless. However you achieve it, it should fit in with the overall environment. So, with the venue hopefully now back up and running and sport taking place, we're going to turn our attention to one of the most important areas, the fan. So what will future of fan engagement look like, and how can we deliver it from a branding perspective? How can we build loyalty and interaction when we don't have spectators in a venue? And how can you in fact grow your fans and welcome in the next generation of spectators for the future? To start with this, I'd like to look at voice activation, and in particular, home speakers. Now, there has been a dramatic rise in the proliferation of home speakers globally, with the likes of Alexa and Google Home leading the way. Indeed, the market, currently worth $7.1 billion this year, is expected to rise to $15.6 billion by 2025. So you're probably thinking, Stacey, that's great, but what does that relate to in how? Well, to date, there are some 200 million smart speakers in home. To put that into context, in 2019, 25% of the UK population had a smart speaker, and that was mirrored, 25% of the US population also had a smart speaker. So this represents, in my mind, a huge opportunity to utilise an underutilised method to engage the fan of the future. So how do we do it? Well, Alexa skills and Google Actions allow you to extend the built-in functionality of Alexa and Google Home to gain increased share of mind from consumers and engage at a deeper level. From voice-activated quizzes, historical facts, to even help support and amplify social responsibility schemes, getting fans active with tips, hints, and challenges from athletes using these home speakers and hubs, it allows a new and unique way of entering the home in what is becoming a rare communal moment. Have you ever wanted to train with a sporting idol or legend? Now's your chance, without them having to watch you do it. Voice activation allows greater levels of fan engagement right in the heart of home. With fans at various stages of technology adoption, this is an easy method of direct communications without the need for bespoke applications or even headsets. Believe me, home speakers are a great opportunity for fan engagement in the future. But sport can also be accessible to casual and avid fans 24/7, and this usually becomes in the form of on-demand and social content. But even more, there is a trend towards fitness. The achievement of getting through that Joe Wicks workout or attaining your 10,000 steps has become a challenge during these lockdown times. Indeed, again, let's look at the US. In April, sales of fitness equipment rocketed by over 600%, and Peloton Active saw quarterly profits increase by 66%. If there's one thing that's taken off, it's the popularity of home fitness. And while a lot of us aren't able to get back to playing sports, or might simply want to watch from the sidelines, if we do, what is apparent is mental and physical well-being of sport provides what we've always known: security, safety, and health well-being. And this alike holds an opportunity for fans, new and existing. So to enter this space as a sport and promote mental and physical well-being, welcome to what we call the Home Crowd Health and Wellbeing Challenge, an opportunity to gamify fitness, have interaction with players and athletes, and drive the competitive nature of fans. Imagine being able to compete versus pro athletes, to unlock bespoke sport-specific badges, track via fitness apps, and convert it into virtual energy to propel what could be a tennis ball to the moon or a basketball from the Amazon to Antarctic. Within our mobile phone devices, we're able to tap into data-rich sources such as I've mentioned, Google Fit and Fitbit. Take this data, translate it anonymously into virtual prizes and virtual games. Every step, every jump, and every swing a fan does counts. Also being able to see how you can compete versus live athletes in their own home workout challenge as well. Now, when we touch on home crowd, we don't just mean while countries, cities, and areas of the world are in lockdown, but this is an opportunity to engage with fans throughout their life cycle and drive loyalty. So what else? Well, I don't know about you, but as a spectator, to be able to get the best seat in the house is worth every penny. Ringside front row tickets are a prize most aren't able to get. But utilising state-of-the-art technology, as you can see here, digital screens can deliver just that, along with dynamic content to provide a truly unique experience. So giant screens that surround the field of play or the court, where fans can appear and take their front row seat, also offers a unique way of monetizing this crowd while they're at home. Fans do not even need to leave their living room now to be able to get that front row seat. This also gives the added benefit of having an atmosphere in a stadium where there is all live, all moderated, and all commercially viable. Spectators are loyal, passionate, vocal, and above all, we know they're incredibly competitive. In the past, their role has been incredibly passive. But to be honest, a fan is anything but passive. Take, for example, a game which I'm sure everybody remembers, March 2016, Leicester City. Leicester City fans screamed, roared, chanted and stomped so much after their team scored a last-minute goal that they were actually measured at a 0.3 earthquake magnitude. That's the passion of fans. And with increased adoption of technology, fans more than ever want to move away from a passive, participatory state to what they see as influence. They want responses to become visual. They want every tweet, every social post, every chant they make to have a direct visible action in Stadia. So, how do you do this? Well, there's lots of different ways, from hashtagging your favorite team and seeing their logo become brighter, to, of course, showing your passion through audio and having that appear. Or in this case, what you can see is our FlexLight digital screen solution wrapped around a car, so another sponsorship opportunity, that changes in real time and shows data visualization. So the greater a fan roars or screams from home, the more the car changes. The future is very much evolving, and fans are a part of that evolution and want to know that they can control environments. Imagine a crowd being able to change the colour of a venue, the lighting, by the amount of passion that they show. Believe me, it'll happen. Now, one of the biggest affected areas during this horrific COVID-19 pandemic that has affected sport is not only ticketing, but also hospitality merchandise. Behind closed doors means a significant loss in all of these three areas. And as we enter phase 2, the emergence, pre-vaccine, where spectators in limited numbers are allowed back into the stadium, the bottom line will still be hit by decreased tickets. So what are the options and how can we mitigate for this? For this, we look again at the home crowd. And as the viewing experience evolves, and we'll discuss a little bit more about how that can evolve later, and so does merchandise opportunities and how you can incentivize customers to spend more on merchandise by releasing rewards. The entertainment and in particular the music industry do this incredibly well. Buy or download a track and have the opportunity of securing an artist signed selfie, all digital, all live. Rewarding spend with a money can't buy experience is cost effective to deliver and a way to help generate social. Effectively, you're creating a merchandise value exchange. Now, the advancements in the field of play, and in particular the field of virtual, have meant a significant leap in complementing in-venue branding. And I should say that virtual will not, in my opinion, ever eliminate the need for the likes of seat kills, tunnel headers or ground graphics, but instead complement this and allow for unique geolocated brand messaging and new sponsorship opportunities. For us as an organisation, we have a vision to dramatically enhance the value of virtual advertising by building an end-to-end service proposition focused around the emerging technology that delivers more authentic and dynamic virtual advertising placements. From virtual experiential placements through to TIFO banners rippling as they cross a virtual crowd, and editorial enhancements, as you can see here, such as how fast or how far a ball is hit, the height an athlete jumps, or the lap speed of a car, all can be geolocated into account regulations and all need no additional crew on site. This is a cost-effective method of delivering new advertising branding. And as you can see here, the realism is phenomenal. What Virtual can also do is take into account unique niches in terms of geolocation too. So if certain brand categories are banned from countries, no problem at all. These can be adapted in real time and made to make sure that everything is legal, legitimate, and above board. But going even further, we can take this experience right back into the homes and into the hearts of fans themselves to deliver arguably commercially viable ticketed experience through what we call augmented reality portals that can live independently or be built in to pre-existing applications. These breathtaking experiences allow consumers to walk through portals that appear in their home, direct from their phone or tablet, and follow their sporting idols, be it behind the scenes, in the pit or locker room. Imagine being able to enter a locker room, you know, an area that very few of us are able to see. Augmented reality portals allow you to do that, but it also allows you to not only get behind the scenes, but to watch the sport like you have never watched it before. That front row seat or sitting on the sidelines is now a viable and practical solution. And again, a solution that can be ticketed, allowing for additional revenue generation during this period. This is how we can, as an industry, engage with an audience that we haven't to a greater degree before, that home fan experience. And as soon as you can get into the hearts of consumers' homes, you have access to the family and friends within that home too. These are unique ways of being able to grow audiences. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I also didn't take a moment to touch on environmental issues, and in particular, how we can benefit and grow our sustainability charters. So let's take a little moment to look at that. As an industry, we've been influential in leading the way on reducing single-use plastics or eliminating the use of non-recyclable products. At CSM Live, for example, we work with partnership with Formula E to eradicate the use of PVC on trackside branding and signage. Sport was doing incredibly well, and we were certainly helping to lead the way. But when COVID reared its ugly head, as it did, we are now forced into exceptional circumstances. We now have to use PPE, and as we know, the majority of PPE is non-recyclable. With increased pressures on healthcare and mass social consciousness around this area, what it's really done is underscore the need and reliance on single-use plastics, which is experiencing a sudden resurge. The materials turned out to be both sanitary and to protect from the greatest transmission of highly contagious pathogens. But what does this mean for our environmental policies, and what can be done to offset this? Welcome to a new opportunity, as I see it. The opportunity to help offset the use of essential PPE equipment in an environment and engage with fans again. The opportunity to allow season ticket holders, and fans that aren't able to get back into stadia, either during this period or on re-emergence, to be able to do something positive for the environment. What can they do? They can donate the cost of their ticket to purchasing a small tree. These trees will be placed on their seats and the match will go on. Post the match, these trees will be planted in the local environment or local communities, all tagged to be donated to local heroes, medical staff, frontline staff, workers, or departed loved ones. An opportunity to create a fantastic, environmentally friendly, sustainable solution to PPE single-use plastics. So I'd like to kind of close there, and before we go into questions, just summarize a little bit about what we've been talking about in detail. So since sport was first shown on TV, and I'd like to take a moment to pause and say, can anyone think of when it was first shown on TV? I will give the answer in a minute. The viewing experience, give or take the red button, has largely remained the same. So since 1937, when the first sports were shown on TV, and I wonder how many of you got that one, nothing's really changed. But recent events have shook up the institution of sport we all love and know. And while there are certainly challenging and logistical changes that need to be made, in my opinion, it also allows us to redefine the sporting relationship with an ever-evolving fan who demands new experiences, who expects new experiences, and who wants to participate more than ever. What these do is create new revenue points, whether it's augmented reality, best seats in the house, whether it's donating their ticket price to buy a tree to sit in their place that can be planted and help the environment, whether it's connecting with athletes like they never have had the opportunity to before and take part in a gamified version of home fitness, whether it's virtual advertising and seeing new and unique placements. All these are utilizing technology to drive the value exchange. I'd like to thank you very much. And I would say if you'd like any further information or to discuss any of the opportunities or points, please do reach out. Now what I'll do is stop sharing and we'll pass back to Elaine for some questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacey, for that very interesting presentation. Before we go into Q&A, I'd actually just like to say to welcome again to all the external participants. I see we have a whole lot of hellos cropping up here, and it's great to see so many of you from all over the world signing in. You know, I have to say, based on your presentation and this topic, the positive side of COVID is we can now connect with the world in such a short time, from putting up your seminar last week to today, to having all these participants as well as those to connect with our class of 2020. So these are some of the positive sides of the impacts of COVID. It's bringing the sports world closer and closer together. So yeah, there's always the silver lining, isn't there?
Absolutely.
So now we're going to put up a quick question, and that is, why is the adoption rate of new technology in sports slow? So for all of you who are working in sport or may have an idea, if you could please give us your thoughts or your ideas in the Q&A attached. And then I'll be addressing the questions that are coming up in the chat, and also those questions that were shared by the class and some external participants over the last day. So I'd like to throw in a first question, if I can, and then I'll go to the participants. So your presentation focused a lot around utilizing technology for sports. Does this mean traditional branding, overlay, and signage will decrease? And will virtual take over? I ask this because, you know, in my previous roles, my complete focus was traditional technology and branding for top partners and sponsors, because that's what they want to get the most out of. So how do you see this working for these top partners and sponsors? Yep, so I let you answer that one.
And Elaine, can I say, just a great question, actually. I think, look, it's really important to understand that while at the moment we're discussing innovation and innovative uses of technology in driving fan experience at home, what it will never, in my opinion, eliminate is the need for branding, physical branding within stadia and venue. Because it's great from a broadcast perspective. I mean, I don't know if any of you watched the Premier League games last night, but to see the seat kills and stadia dressing, it really added something to the game, in my opinion. It really brought it to life. So I think from a live stadia experience, we can never and should never eliminate the need for what we could classify as traditional branding, signage, overlay, etc. What innovation can do is help us engage with a new audience at home that we never have before, and expand that audience. So really, technology allows, to a greater degree, to enhance the fan experience in stadia and to really engage much better and deeper with fans at home, which as a sport, we don't do enough. We don't take that time to engage with fans in their front room. But in a live sporting venue, certainly traditional branding signage is imperative, and I don't think, in my opinion, should or ever will be eradicated. I think we'll still see it at the forefront, alongside, hopefully, simultaneously with technology.
Yeah. And could you see also that the cost of broadcasting actually increasing based on the fact that, you know, more people are now watching events at home? So this area of pricing would probably also go up.
Absolutely. I mean, it for rights holders, it has a benefit. If you're able to gauge with more people, in addition, you know, increasing eyeballs, not just in a traditional TV setting, but on multi-platform, be it on-demand, mobile, augmented reality, digital screens around venues. What it does is provide more viewers than ever before, and that will help reshape that kind of rights holder model. In addition to that, the influx of virtual, for example, will offer new environments for sponsors to be able to have their brand on, where in a traditional sense, they might not have been able to. So for example, on the field of play.
Okay. So
Yes,
how
I think it will shape up.
yeah, so I mean, how will you see fan zones, for example, and experiential sport activations change post lockdown? How would you see a fan zone for the next World Cup? How do you
Yeah,
visualize?
I think that's really interesting. And what we have to look at the moment is a fan zone, a experiential sports activation with what we know, which is there are restrictions in place. So for UK and a lot of Europe, we have the 2-meter restriction, for example, and that would shake up how a traditional experiential or a traditional fan zone would operate. But this is where technology can be brought in. As human beings, we love to touch, we love to taste, we love the physical interaction with other fans, and that will not stop. But utilizing technology, so click and collect systems, virtual queuing systems, will mean that it should be a seamless adoption in terms of being able to still experience a fan zone, because there is nothing, quite frankly, better than getting in there with fans and spectators who are as passionate as we are.
Yeah.
Within those fan zones, and help getting closer to brands and having that wider entertainment experience. More than anything, I think for sports and stadia, entertainment will really come to the forefront of this. It will just be in a slightly different way.
Okay. I'm now going to go to questions from the class and our external audience. And the first one is going to come to you from James, who is a class of 2020 participant at AISTS. And his question is, it seems that event experience is becoming a bigger draw for attendees than the live sport itself. What are your views on this, and how do you see this evolving? More focus on the venue and amenities, try and make sport more interesting or entertaining?
So, James, I think that's a fantastic question, you know, and great for it to be posed. So well done. And I think, you know, for this one, I kind of think that there will always be a place for sport. You know, that traditional sporting experience will never go away, and never should it. And I think sport is something that draws us all together. I talk about it in terms of tribes of spectators that all share the same passions, no matter the race, ethnicity. You know, I think it just draws people together in this kind of bubble of excitement. But we have to look at the evolution of sport at the same time. And I think for this, I would do a nod over to our cousins in the US. And take, for example, the Super Bowl, you know, one of the biggest sporting events in the global calendar. You look at the last one, and I think it was Jennifer Lopez and Shakira that took part in the halftime show, the infamous halftime show. If you look at broadcast figures, it's really interesting, because for that halftime show, they captured 103 million viewers watching the halftime show. For the actual game itself, that dropped to 99.9 million viewers. So you can see people want the entertainment, they want the spectacle of the show. Look at sporting venues that really lead the way, like the Mercedes-Benz Center in Atlanta too, where, you know, a really unique venue that has been designed with the fan at its very heart. And I think one of the biggest learnings we can take there is Wi-Fi. So how many venues actually provide a reliable and robust and powerful Wi-Fi to their fans? Because if we look at it, statistics show that you're twice as likely to take a photo and share it on social when you're watching a live social sporting event than you are at home.
Mm-hmm.
So for sports, we want people to be talking about sport, right? We want it to be shared. We want to connect with people. But to do that, you need reliable Wi-Fi systems. So I suppose in general, what I'm saying, James, is that I kind of agree that increasingly the entertainment side, the fan experience will become even more important. Do I think it will trump the sport itself? No, it won't, but it will be an additional draw to get fans into the stadia, to get fans engaging, and to get people who aren't as passionate or haven't come into a contact with that sport before. It's another reason for them to come and view it themselves, exactly the same as esports is doing too.
Well, I think that's a good answer, but it also answers a question that we have received from Oma, which is similar. I would say, what are the top 3 advice or strategies CSM Live is giving their clients to continue to engage the passionate sports audiences? In parentheses, move to esports, webinars, etc. Or do you want to answer that?
Yeah. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. It's hard to just come up with 3, quite frankly. I mean, I would say first and foremost, what I've been saying to brands that I've been speaking to and my clients has been, do not, under any circumstances, give up on sport. Don't suddenly go, oh, I'm not sure about the value of connecting with a sporting audience anymore. Because if there is one thing that COVID-19 has shown us, it is how much we have missed sport, how much we've missed watching it, going along to see it live or on TV or on digital channels. You can see that from record viewing figures for the likes of the Australian Rugby League, for example. I mean, record figures when that returned back to screen. Premier League were expecting viewing figures to have rocketed. NASCAR had viewing figures rocketed. We love sport. So my first thing that I've been saying is do not give up on sport, because fans certainly haven't. And not only are they coming back in droves, they are coming back bigger than ever before. So viewing figures are increasing. Stick with sport. It is one of the most valuable properties you can possibly associate with. Next then is, okay, well, we agree we should connect with sport, but during this period with games behind closed doors, what do we do? How do we engage? And I would say to that, look at new ways that you can do that, be it outdoor screening. So there's been a big kind of rush, everyone will have seen, personally speaking, in London, from movie screenings in outdoor cinemas. Well, what about if that was sporting screenings in outdoor cinemas? What are new ways that you can take the current opportunity and deliver great experiences for fans? And that would be one of them. So think more innovatively, think about technology, think about new ways of engaging, because this is the time to do it. Third, I would say, is during this period, it also allows us to understand our audience even more than we have. Because if we're able to access fans in their own homes, we're able to collect really rich data. And as I talked about earlier, it's the value exchange. Nalaine, will you give me your data? Most of it anonymized. If I give you a fantastic experience back, the chances are you'd say, you know what? Sounds pretty good. As long as what you're using my data for is to help my experience get enhanced, I would like to do that. So I would say utilize data on your audience even more to understand their needs. And hey, sports started to come back now. It's fantastic. I don't have to watch replays anymore. I can watch it live. Fans are doing it in their droves too. So don't give up. One of the most valuable properties, and it always will be.
Thanks. Just relating to that question, I have another question from an external participant who's responsible for sports and events, Big Tree Entertainment, and his name is Ujwal Bala. And his question is, do you feel investing hugely in these giant screens, just like they did in Denmark, to bring in fans via Zoom call is correct?
So I think this is a really interesting one. I think if venues are investing in screens for the long term in stadia, that's a really good thing. I think that's a really good thing. I think it enhances the fan experience, and you can show some of this data visualization, editorial content on that screen during live games. So should Stadia be investing in digital screens full stop? Yes, they should. Should they be using them in order to for Zoom participants during lockdown? Yes, I think so. But if it's just a temporary screen, then don't buy it. If you're not intending to put it up and use it long term, rent it. Do I think it's worthwhile doing that? Yes, I do. Because one, it is incredibly motivating for all those players on the field to see the fans, which are part of it. It really drives them. So seeing fans on screens, absolutely. It's not quite the same as seeing them in real life, but to hear their passion, to see them, you know, get excited, to cheer them along is a great motivational factor. And for those fans on that Zoom call, my goodness, what a fantastic experience. To get that up close and personal with a sport is phenomenal. And the same as when I showed an example of the digital screen surrounding court, I mean, it's such a unique experience, and I would totally recommend, if anyone is able to do it, do it. So I would say yes, it is worth investing in digital screens. It's worth investing in them for the long term. It's worth doing Zoom participants on it, because it really enhances the experience for everybody, and it looks great on broadcast.
Okay, so my next question comes to you from somebody I know personally, and I can understand where this question comes from, because it's also home ground for him. His name is Yu Takano, and it will be more difficult to engage local residents by holding major sports events, which will be resulted in less benefits / legacy for host cities. How would you address this issue?
So I think there's two things here. I think, you know, as a homeowner, and I live in central London, I think about major sporting events that happen, and I, you know, immediately I might think, oh, traffic congestion, increase in population for a short period of time, it will be more trickier for me. Mm-hmm. I can say, having been here for the 2012 Olympics, and you know, there were contingency plans, and people were talking about working from home because we wouldn't be able to get in because the tubes would be packed. It wasn't that at all. It was in fact a fantastic experience. One, because you're embracing people from around the world that are coming to you with a shared passion. And the same, look, underlining throughout all of this is the incredible economic and social benefits that it has on cities and countries. You take something like Glasgow Commonwealth Games in 2014. You know, there was nervousness about the Commonwealth Games going to Glasgow then, but what did it result in? 1,200 jobs were created off the back of the Commonwealth Games happening there. £390 million were added to that city's GDP because of the games happening there. 690,000 fantastic fans from all over the globe coming, spending their money, communicating with local groups. Amazing. 1.5 billion eyeballs watching that city during the Commonwealth Games was phenomenal, because it really highlighted, it helped change infrastructure. It helped change wealth and well-being. It made everybody feel fantastic and phenomenal. So I would say, you know, you may get some local residents who are worried about the practical side, how will I get to work? How will this impact my day-to-day life? But I honestly say that what is outweighed by all of this is the amazing benefits that it delivers, as well as a phenomenal legacy afterwards.
Okay. Tracy, there's two questions that came from Eric, and I'm generally putting one question forward, but I actually like both of them. And the one is actually quite relevant to today's current situation. There's so many webinars, you know, loads of people sign up, but half only pitch up. So what we're also seeing is that, could the future of events go in this direction. And his first question is, with more and more major events happening each year, the calendar is becoming very congested and there is more competition for eyeballs. Will we see the decline and demise of some long-standing major events, and what will replace them? Or is there room for more events in the calendar?
Well, you're asking a big sporting fan here, so I would say there is more than enough room. What help dictates the success of a sporting event is numerous. One, it's ticketing. So will people turn up? You know, look to 2021, and you have to look at what games are happening within your country, because they're the games you're more likely to go to. You go to one overseas, but if you do, it's only going to be one. So the chances are, you know, the games that are happening on your doorstep are the ones that you will go to see live. The next is, you know, working out a calendar of sporting events is complicated, but it's done in an incredible way that you rarely, in fact, hardly ever get an overlap of sports on the same day. Calendars are worked out so that every sport is able to happen and everybody gets an opportunity to watch them. So I would say certainly 2021, we will be privileged to see more sport across any of the screens that we're watching it on. We'll have more opportunities to go and see the sports live. And I think there is more than enough room for all these sports and some, including esports too. I think we'll start to see that coming more front and center mainstream.
Yeah. I can't remember who the question came from, but based on what you're saying was we're going to have more and more sports and you're going to have a chance to see it, but we also need to keep the social distancing. So this is going to impact ticketing and also ROI for the stadiums. So do you see this changing soon, or how can this be compensated?
So I think there's a few things. There's one which is the kind of short to medium term, which is as restrictions in a lot of countries ease, and they are, we will see, we've already started seeing behind closed doors games. And I know that sporting federations are already starting to think, okay, well, what about the reintroduction of fans in stadia? Now, there will be reduced numbers. There has to be reduced. And this goes back to biosecurity, to make sure that, that the health and safety and welfare of everybody within those venues is put first and foremost. That's still being worked on. It's still in kind of development stage with all these with all these federations. But of course, if you have a reduced number of fans allowed in stadia, you will of course see a reduced amount of revenue that comes from those ticketing options. But that's where technology comes in, and that's where you can start to commercialize your home audience. Because if you have to have something like seat kills, or you need to take rows of seats out, you know, if it was me, I would think about, well, what can I replace there? What can go there? And they can be 360 cameras, for example, that allows other people the opportunity to still be part of it, and allows new ways of generating incremental revenue. You know, you take something like esports as well. Esports is something that you don't need to participate in live. You don't need to be there, and you don't need to watch it live. Neither is sport. You know, sport is fantastic to see live, and I'm a big advocate for going to see live sports. But I think an area that sport as a whole, and I touched on it earlier, hasn't really got their heads around is how do you monetize a fan that's sat in their living room? And that will be crucial, because entertainment has done that. Now it's time for sports to follow suit. How can we commercialize better a fan at home so that they get an incredible experience, and rather than paying for a physical ticket to go and see a sport live, they're able to pay for one so they can get the best seat in the house by watching it through an augmented reality portal, through a Zoom call, or through any other types of technology. So it's about thinking laterally about new commercial opportunities to drive ticketing revenue.
Great. And I think, yeah, that answered the question from an external panelist, Rodrigo Moreno, so you're welcome there. And as I mentioned, there were two questions from Eric McKenzie, and the second one I'm going to throw in because I always try to get in a woman in sport question. I think the great part about the whole online and streaming, etc., is now could we actually see women's sport being played in parallel to men, same season? So his question is actually saying, with the increase of women's sporting events around the world, often these are played in different time slots or sessions to their male counterparts. Can you see women's sport being played concurrently with the male league? And will they use them as double header events?
I think it's interesting because I think there's pros and cons to both. I'm really lucky to be involved in the Rugby League World Cup 2021 next year, and we are playing them concurrently. So we will have men's, women's, and wheelchairs playing at the same time. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. And we've had some fantastic feedback, and fans are really behind us on that. But in addition to that, I think, a pro is, do we want women's sport to be played at the same time or concurrently with men's? I think it would be a fantastic thing. I think in the future we will see that. But I also think we want to ensure that women's sport is given as much precedent as any other sport is, as the male counterparts. So we want to also make sure that women have their own defined slot too. We have seasons for women that we can all follow as well, that could be played in synergy or in slight counterpart to the men as well, because I think women's sport will increasingly become popular. It has been, it's seen a phenomenal rise. I think it will continue to do that as well as lots of other types of sports, so disability sports too. I think now is the time where, and it goes back to, is the sporting calendar already full? There's always more room. For me, I would watch sport 24/7 if I could, and I know I'm not the only one out there, so I do think it would be fantastic to see women's sport, getting as much precedent. It's starting to now, as male counterparts do. And I think we will see more sports embracing double headers, more sports being played concurrently, but also more sports really defining their own women's season as well.
Mm-hmm. Stacey, there's some great questions coming in still, and I see one from Daniela Otero, and I know that the question relating to 16 to 23-year-olds is actually great and really important, because these are the younger audiences who are more prone to modern technology versus us oldies who just, want to be in there with the beers in our hands. So what I would like to say to our participants, as well as those calling in, these questions will be sent to Stacey, because we can't answer all of them now, and we will try to get you answers within the next week. But for the essence of time, I'd like to actually see what we're doing with our poll and what are the answers like. So let's pull up the poll and see what's come out of that. And given the question that was asked on the poll, which was why is the adoption rate of technology in sports slow? Okay, so there's your answer, not enough knowledge. I'm not sure if you want to comment on that before I ask for recommendations. I think while Stacey's commenting on this, for the federations and for those who are listening in, can you maybe share some recommendations on how you think we could actually move this faster or increase awareness in this area with IFs, etc.?
So I think this is, fantastic question, and I think these answers are really enlightening. 45% of you are saying that cost factors are the main prohibitor of the adoption of technology, and I think it really depends what technology you're looking at. If you're looking at technology that has been in existence for a while, so augmented reality, for example, and the augmented reality portals or digital screens, actually the costs have come down a lot. So as market demand goes up, costs, supply and demand, but costs are decreasing and decreasing fast as it becomes kind of almost normal, and other sectors are embracing it. So I'd say don't worry too much about costs. It does depend on the type of technology you're adopting. If you said to me, could we create holograms or something, I'd say the cost would be high because the technology hasn't proliferated the market yet. But certainly for a lot of the time, we can help with multiple costing here. The not enough knowledge is a really good point as well. But that you know, there is enough knowledge out there, and I'm happy to provide any kind of details on technology that I can. If there's certain areas that, you know, that the audience really want to know more about. You know, back-end digital, the developing side can get incredibly complicated. What I'd say is don't worry about that. That's why developers exist. They take complicated bits. We get the nice front-end user experience. But really interesting results there, really interesting, and keen to hear, you know, a little bit more in depth from the audience on this call.
Well, as they're sharing their recommendations on how to move this faster, there's a question that did come in from Lucas, and that was, if you had to rate, you know, the technology, which technology innovations could be seized more in the future through major sports events? So, you know, what would be your top three that you would recommend that you could see being utilized?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know what, my biggest thing at the moment would be to say, 12 months ago, who would have thought we'd have been on a webinar like this? Who would have seen the adoption rates of Zoom and Teams accelerate at the rate they have? We just wouldn't have thought that was possible. We just wouldn't have imagined it, but it has, and it works. And it's been fantastic. So, you know, my first thing to say would be don't fear technology. The second is we have a lot of fantastic technology that has been running in the background for other sectors that is rife to be embraced because it's cost effective, it works, and there are lots of examples of it. And, you know, some of them would be the likes of augmented reality. So being able to do things like portals and lots of other things as well in the comfort of your own home. So augmented reality, getting behind the scenes, allowing fans to get connected in richer ways with sports, I think is rife to be utilised more. Definitely rife to be utilised more. I think also being able to touch into, you know, I talk about the value exchange, data versus reward, things like merchandise as well. So being able to take advantage of digital technology, quite frankly, help drive self-generating social. But, you know, if I buy a club shirt and I'm offered the chance to have a player sign that virtually for me, amazing, I would do that. That's a really rich data reward. It's driving me to spend. It's also giving me something back, and it's happening virtually, so it's happening digitally as well. So I think certainly digital platforms for live interaction, and also utilizing data points that you might not have thought of before. So I touched on kind of Fitbit and Google Health and all these ways that you can take kinetic energy from a person's phone and transfer them into a gamified version. It sounds complicated. It's really not. We're doing it all day, every day. If you've got a Fitbit and it tells you you've done 10,000 steps, that's utilizing your kinetic energy to transfer into data. It's as simple as that. So I think there's lots of things out there that we could be utilizing much better to have a deeper connection with our audiences.
Mm-hmm. I know technology moves really fast, and we've seen this in some third world countries where we've actually skipped telephones and jumped to mobile telephones. So a question to you is how do we connect in countries where they've actually not really already converted to modern technology, etc.? How do we connect with those fans? So how do you see this working in globally? I mean, some sectors where we're kind of all sitting with two telephones, two laptops, etc. But some societies not. So how do you?
Absolutely. And I think what you have to do is look at the traditional experience, look at what it is about sport. And for me, sport brings us all together. It brings, you know, everyone together in this kind of shared passion and excitement. Mm-hmm. So, you know, outdoor viewing experiences, a fantastic way of doing that. Getting people together in an environment where they maybe aren't able to go to a live sporting event and able to experience that is a fantastic way. Hands-on experiences or experiential experiences is also another great way of doing that, where they don't have to own the technology themselves, they can experience it secondhand, I think is also another great way of doing that.
Lovely. Well, Stacey, that brings us to the end. I've literally got a minute to close. So I'd like to thank you very much for being on our online seminar today. And also, I will share with you the questions. And if you could please possibly answer, that
Of
would be
course.
appreciated. And I'd like to just quickly send out a note. So thank you, Stacey, for the fantastic informative seminar. For those online and calling in externally, as well as for the participants, we have one more seminar in the series, which takes place next Thursday at 2 p.m. We will be welcoming Pierre Ducret, Olympic Games Operations Director at the International Olympic Committee. And this session will discuss the operational impact of moving the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. And I think this is top of our list and we're all interested on this topic. So this will be next week at 2 p.m. And you can all register on AISTS.org. And last but not least, and this is really an important piece of the AISTS program, on the 29th and 30th of July, we will have 11 sessions that will be available to public, which will be live streamed on Facebook and YouTube. These are the class of 2020 team project presentations. And this year's projects include analyzing the state of women's football from FIFA, developing anti-doping guidance for the world dance, and analyzing human legacy of the Lausanne 2020 Youth Olympic Games. If you'd like to find out more of the other sessions, please go to info@aists.org and you'll see all the other presentations that we will deliver on the 29th and 30th. So I'd like to thank you all for joining and I wish you a lovely rest of day. 1 minute over, so thanks everyone. Thanks Stacey. And
thank you.
have a good day.